Hi, hey, hello, and welcome to another Washington Jersey episode of a Colts podcast presented by Sports Illustrated. It's Horseshoe Huddle. My name's Brandon, and I am joined here by your co-host, my best friend, Andrew Moore. Not a great day. I don't want to get into a whole talk about how our weekend was. But how are you feeling right now?
Pretty disappointed, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, I when before the game started, I mean, I predicted the Colts to lose 24-17. They lost 25-16. So overall, I mean, it was pretty close to what I was thinking. But just to see the way that they lost, I think, and the way they performed, definitely wasn't the best effort. And those areas that we've been really concerned about, which we're going to get into, they're not getting any better. And there were some things concerning the play calling and just how the offense was going, while the defense forced some turnovers. Overall, it was a pretty bad defensive performance as well. Colts aren't a good team right now. It's just as simple as that. Whether you chalk it up to injuries, you chalk it up to bad luck, you chalk it up to poor execution. Either way you look at it, Colts aren't a very good team right now.
Yeah, that hurts my feelings when you say it like that, but you're not wrong. Before we get started, I just want to remind everybody to, like, subscribe, click on the video, the little bell thing, just so you know when we're going live. Go follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at A Colts Podcast. Just A Colts Podcast. You can go to our website, acoltspodcast.com. Go check us out there. Real simple these days. Remember, when your friend says, man, I love the Colts, I'm looking for a podcast, what should I do? A Colts Podcast. Obviously, tell your friends. That's how we grow. We appreciate you all. Colts lose 16-25 to the Titans in week 3. I mean, it shouldn't have been that close, to be honest with you. Tennessee blundered some opportunities. Our defense caused some turnovers. So realistically, we were lucky for a score like that. It could have gotten real ugly, but the defense kept us in it until they didn't. The offense just couldn't keep up. And here, week 3, I'm finally mad at Carson Wentz. Okay. I'm mad that obviously Carson Wentz is going to play if the doctors let him. But Carson Wentz knew how hurt he was. Carson Wentz looked real slow. His dropbacks were taking 10 years, it felt like. This week, he was hanging on to the ball too long on multiple occasions. But yeah, why is this guy that's hurt throwing the ball 37 times? Why is that happening?
That's a great question. I'm really not sure why the ball was in his hands so much, and why Frank Reich continued to do that. That was one of my main qualms with the game, is because we had a successful running game going, and it seemed like we were putting more of the onus on a hobbled Carson Wentz. And to be honest, I'm not. Even though Carson Wentz is hurt, I think this is more of an indictment on how bad the backup quarterback situation is for the Colts, because even with a hobbled Carson Wentz, I still think that's better than sending Brett Hundley out there, than sending Jacob Eason out there. I really do. And that's not only an indictment on Chris Ballard for not making the backup quarterback position a priority this offseason, knowing Carson Wentz's injury history. It's also on Frank Reich for kind of bringing some of these guys in. And number one, it doesn't seem like Jacob Eason has been, I don't know if I want to say fairly given a chance, but it just doesn't seem like they're sold on Jacob Eason. Yeah. Why when Sam Ehlinger comes back, I wouldn't be surprised if Sam Ehlinger is the backup and Jacob Eason continues to stay as the third string quarterback, or even gets cut for that matter. So I definitely think that the Colts didn't play this right this offseason, especially knowing that there is a chance that Wentz can get hurt, and you need to have a solid backup quarterback in there. You could have tried to re-sign Jacoby Brissett. He's now down playing in Miami because Tua is hurt. Jacoby Brissett isn't a world beater, but we can all agree he's a solid backup quarterback.
Yeah, almost won a football game against an undefeated team today.
Right. Mitch Trubisky. Say what you will about Mitch Trubisky. He signed with the Bills for $2.5 million. And Mitch Trubisky, he has a winning record as a starter. So, he's a solid backup option. And he's got
torched his old team in the preseason.
He did. And honestly, he's got that mobile aspect that Carson Wentz does. So they've got a similar playing style, even. So I definitely think that's something to think about. But yeah, as far as Carson Wentz was concerned, you could obviously tell he wasn't himself. The lack of mobility was obvious. Anytime the pressure got near him, he would just throw the ball at the running back's ankles to get rid of it. He was holding on to the ball far too long. He was missing his reads. I think today was the first time where I can say Carson Wentz had a really bad performance. And I do. Yeah. The injury did play a role in that.
Oh,
but,
for sure.
But it's at the same time.
Know that though.
Right, exactly. He has to know that, and he needs to make sure he's getting it to his reads and not being so hesitant with his throws when you are that injured and that immobile in the pocket.
We got a little off the path here. We're talking Carson Wentz, and then we get into the backup quarterback situation and whatnot. So let's finish. Let's do this. Brett Hundley was the backup today. On
Correct.
paper, Brett Hundley was the one that was going to probably start if Carson Wentz didn't play. So I think that says loads about what the Colts think about Jacob Eason, or maybe Brett Hundley, not that bad. Brett Hundley was supposed to be a guy coming out of college. Like, people thought that guy, UCLA, right?
Right.
I remember hearing, like, people thought he could be a good quarterback. He's not great. He didn't do well from what I saw when he was with the Packers, but either way, if he's already, in a few weeks jumped over Carson Wentz, Jacob Eason, yeah, I think that says something a lot about how the Colts feel about him and about Eason. But in regards to Wentz, he did start, and he shouldn't have. And he got beat up some more. And sometimes it was his fault. Sometimes it was the offensive line's fault. The offensive line looked a little bit better today, but I think there were situations where you could defend Carson Wentz and say a play broke down so fast, but if you watch, his drop back took too long. It was like he looked like Phil Rivers out there in regards to speed. Plain and simple. But Phil Rivers is a lot smarter and a lot better at getting rid of the ball fast. So, I don't know. Maybe some of this is on Frank. Maybe some of this is just on Wentz hanging on to the ball too long. How much? I thought about this today. How badly are we missing Nick Sirianni? Do you think we are? I know he didn't call plays, but he was so involved in the game planning.
He was, but still, that chief decision maker is Frank Reich, and Marcus Brady is. It's not like Marcus Brady is completely rewriting this offense with what he's doing either. I would like
just a random thought I had today while I was watching our offense blow.
I do think this offense needs to look more like the beginning of 2018 with Andrew Luck, and it just doesn't seem like we're seeing that. In the beginning of 2018, the criticism was always Luck needs to get rid of the ball faster. He needs to not take as many hits. So Frank Reich specifically schemed those quick passes so Luck could get rid of the ball quicker.
Is Wentz just not throwing them?
There are some times, there was a crosser today where Jack Doyle was wide open, and that's the one where I said Wentz held the ball way too long. And Wentz also missed some throws. That one trip to the red zone, Michael Pittman Jr. is open by a step and a half, and he just overthrows him. Michael Pittman Jr.'s 6'4" and he's got long arms. I saw a comment on Twitter that Pittman alligator armed it. No, that's not the case. That was a bad throw by Wentz.
Yeah,
it really was. And then you have the subsequent drop by Zach Pascal in the red zone too. We're going to get to the red zone, believe me, but Wentz was just off today. And you could chalk it up to the ankles. Some of it, I'm sure, was the ankles. Some of it, I'm sure it wasn't. Had anything to do with his injury. But Wentz definitely didn't play well today. At the same time, even though he didn't play well, I think he still was our better option compared to having Brett Hundley or Jacob Eason out there.
I don't know. There was part of that game I was wondering if maybe Hundley would have been the better option. Like, honest to God. And I don't like saying stuff like that. I want to support our guy, but what you would think a guy with a hobbled back, plant leg would have been underthrowing guys. And what I texted you during the game, it was like 5-6 overthrows. He was overthrowing everybody. It didn't make any sense to me. He just looked bad. Today was definitely his worst game as a Colt. Is this the worst we've lost now too this year? 9 points. or tied for the worst. It's close.
I think the Seattle game was a bigger deficit because I think Seattle was
Garbage time touchdown.
28-16.
Garbage
So
time touchdown or something.
that I'm not sure. I forget, but I mean, and the thing is, I'm not going to put this entire loss on Wentz. That's for sure.
No.
I think
we got more to talk about.
Yeah, so we'll definitely.
Why don't we just move into it? Go ahead.
Yeah. So I think one of the biggest disappointments today was the lack of running game, and it's not on the running backs. I put this solely on Frank Reich. I really do not know why the Colts got away from the running game, because it's not like they were down by 2 scores for the majority of the second half. At halftime, it was 14-10. And that on that first drive, we even saw the running game continue to go, and then all of a sudden it just keeps completely abandoned.
Yep.
Jonathan Taylor today had 64 yards on 10 carries. The guy averaged 6.4 yards a carry and only had 10 carries.
He was moving piles.
He was looking like the Jonathan Taylor we've expected so far. Why is he only getting 10 carries? That kid should get at least 17 to 20.
Why are there only 16 carries team wide?
Correct. Between the running backs, I mean, Michael Pittman had a carry and Ashton Doolin had a carry but Nyheim Hines, 6 carries for 6 carries for 25 yards, 4.2 2 yards per carry. Why isn't he getting the ball more? I mean, we used him in the passing game very well, but there was no reason. This team mantra is run the damn ball. Yeah, Quentin Nelson got injured. Quentin Nelson got injured, but Chris Reed is a serviceable backup. I think Chris Reed's our best backup lineman on this team.
Mm-hmm.
Quentin Nelson went out in the first quarter. Jonathan Taylor was still making hay in the second half. There's no excuse for that. That's all on Frank Reich. And if that's Carson Wentz checking out of those runs, and that's on Carson Wentz as well. But the running game should have been a lot more important.
Frank Reich's right there in his ear. If it's Carson Wentz, he can say, "Hey, man, cut it out. I don't see what you're seeing. So if I'm calling a run, unless it's, XYZ specific that you're seeing, stop." If that's the case. I don't know if it's the case.
I don't know if it's the case either, but at the same time, that Mike cuts out at 15 seconds, and Frank Reich isn't going to spend the little bit of time he has.
Okay, but he has timeouts. He has halftime. He has, TV timeouts. He has opportunities to talk to Carson Wentz, is my point.
Right, but at the same time, I mean, it doesn't seem like Frank Reich thought it was that big of a deal.
Exactly.
Otherwise, he would have said something. It's just a huge why for me, because this Colts team, especially when your quarterback has 2 sprained ankles, why aren't you running the ball more? You have a budding star in Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah.
You made Nyheim Hines a top 10 paid back in this league. Ride those guys. It really made no sense to me.
And Marlon Mack, a healthy scratch, I think I saw you say, right?
Yep, he was
in Slack today. So, yeah, I don't get it. I mean, I just don't get it. I don't think we have to talk more about this because I think it's so obvious. You know what I mean? Like, it's insane. Jonathan Taylor got his longest run of the year today. And he's just, practically made useless at the end of the second half of the football game. I don't get it. So, let's talk about the offensive line some. Still not great. Carson Wentz was pressured plenty. Even if it was sometimes he was hanging on too long. I mean, he's still getting hit a lot. He's leading the league in QB hits.
Oh yeah. And I think the biggest concern about this is Quentin Nelson going down, because Quentin Nelson will try to play through anything. And Quentin Nelson gets that what it looks to be a high ankle sprain. Thank goodness he didn't break it or anything worse. But are we going to have him playing on a high ankle sprain along with Carson Wentz? Or is Quentin Nelson going to miss a couple weeks and till that ankle sprain gets better? That's a big, huge if. And Quentin Nelson is essential to this team. He really is.
Big time. He's the only lineman that's played well all 3 games.
Correct. I mean, he had that foot injury. He's been dealing with back injuries. Now this ankle injury. And Quentin Nelson's been the best offensive lineman. Ryan Kelly, again, missed a couple key blocks. Mark Glowinski.
While you're on Ryan Kelly, it was the 4th down call where they lined JT up in like a fullback position and got that short dump. Ryan Kelly, whether it worked or not, we got the first down, but Ryan Kelly got blown up on that play. They showed the replay and Ryan Kelly got put on his butt.
Ryan Kelly has not been playing up to Ryan Kelly's standards and what we know he can play. Mark Glowinski, again, there were times out there where he looked miss. Julian Davenport was replaced at one point by Matt Pryor, and honestly, I think the next game Matt Pryor should start and Julian Davenport should be relegated to the bench if Braden Smith.
I'd be okay with it.
He has shown that he cannot be. He's a detriment to this offense. Eric Fisher. I mean, I honestly, for Eric Fisher, there were times where he didn't play his best. At the same time, this dude's coming off an Achilles injury and it's his second game back. I'm going to give Eric Fisher some time before I greatly criticize him, because God knows, even an injured and a Eric Fisher that's still coming back, still way better than Julian Davenport.
Yeah.
But yeah, this offensive line, it did look better, especially in the running game. Again, why wasn't the running game utilized more? The Colts were opening up holes for Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines in the running game with this offensive line. And it completely gets abandoned, and Carson Wentz ends up throwing the ball 37 times on 2 bad ankles.
Yeah. They appeared to be run blocking well today too. Yeah, but again, how do we know? We didn't run the ball enough to really give them a good grade. That's a lot of shit talk from a guy whose team just lost in overtime and is 1-2. Got blown out by the Bills. So thanks, Tyler, for stopping by. We'll see what happens to your Miami Dolphins next week, because they don't look great either. Jacoby Brissett, though, revenge game, not good for us. I will admit, Jacoby Brissett might just go off because. What's next? Red zone. Man, is there an echo in here? I mean, it just week 1, week 2, week 3. 1 for 3 in the red zone. I don't why? I don't know why. I don't know why we were one of the better somewhere in the middle last year in the red zone. Yeah.
I think by the end of the year, we were somewhere towards the middle, but honestly, since Frank Reich has become the head coach of the Colts, they've struggled in the red zone. And it just hasn't been pretty. Today, I thought it was a mix of both. I really liked on that first drive we were in the end zone, or the red zone, I should say. The play calling was good. It was fresh. They were passes. There were runs. Nyheim Hines got the ball on that end around and gets in for the score, or the handoff gets in for the score. The second time, I don't put that on Frank Reich. I put that on Carson Wentz and the receivers. I mean, Carson Wentz threw a bad ball to Michael Pittman. Throw a good ball, that's a touchdown. He throws it to Zach Pascal. That's usually a catch Zach Pascal makes. He drops it.
You're going to get hit anyway. Catch the damn ball,
So that was bad. And then on the last one, I think it was a combination of both. Play calling, where you only give it one time to Jonathan Taylor when the running the ball was working, or was it even Nyheim Hines? I don't even know if Jonathan Taylor touched the ball in the red zone there. And then there was that one play where it should have been a pass interference call against on the throw to Zach Pascal, where the guy didn't even turn around to look for the ball. He hit Zach Pascal before the ball got there. Ref swallowed their whistle. Don't really understand that one. But so I think it goes all the way around. It goes some of the play calling could have been better. The execution definitely could have been better. And I don't know. Just need to focus on this more and devote more attention to this in practice, but it's becoming a pattern. Every single year we're consistently talking about the Colts and their red zone struggles. And if the Colts want to get, whether it's this year or years down the road, if the Colts want to be a Super Bowl contending team, they have to be one of the top teams in the red zone. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have anything else to say on it either. I mean, that's where you score points, and we're not scoring points, and we're losing football games. So,
well, if you think 1 for 3, I mean, the Colts lost by 9. You turn those two field goals by hot rod, and instead you turn them into 7 points. That's 8 points right there. So it's a completely different ball game.
I was going to say something, I forget, but that's fine. What the shit was I thinking? I don't know. Maybe I'll think of it later. Defense, 3 turnovers. Not a bad day.
You look at that stat alone, and you think the Colts should assuredly win the game, right?
Here, let me put it another way. The defense forced 3 turnovers, and they only scored 8 points in fantasy. Okay. Ridiculous. I mean, everything was easy. Derrick Henry, 28 carries, 113 yards. Honestly, I don't love that stat, but that's right in the neighborhood of what we guessed. So I text you. I was like, Derrick Henry's a problem already in the first quarter. And you were like, no, he's only had the one good run. I'm like, I don't give a shit about this one good run. I'm talking about every time he touches the ball, it feels like 5 yards. It feels like he's running somebody over. It feels like he's pushing a pile 5 yards when he should have gotten 1 yard. And then it just, I mean, you keep tackling the guy and eventually you're going to stop wanting to tackle the guy. And that's kind of how it felt. Ryan Tannehill, 18 out of 27, 194 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. And he still had a good game with the 2 interceptions. He probably was like, I'm happy with today. Shit. One of them wasn't his fault. One of them was. What do you think about what we tackled better today? What is it today? What was wrong today?
See, I still don't have that same opinion as you do on Derrick Henry, because last week when we were talking about it, I said I think
didn't let him kill us.
I think if the Colts can contain him, because Derrick Henry's going to get his. That wasn't a question of whether he was going to rush for 50 yards. I said regardless, he's probably going to get between 190, 110 yards. He got 113. The biggest thing was not letting him rip off those huge 40, 50-yard plays. And honestly, the Colts really didn't let him. The biggest thing that the Colts did is, again, something that has always plagued this Colts defense, the bootlegs. Ryan Tannehill on those bootlegs, picking up huge run after huge run.
That was his most rushing yards in the game.
Ryan Tannehill was the one that was getting the explosive runs, not Derrick Henry. And then you look at it. AJ Brown was injured most of the game. Julio Jones hardly played in the second half.
I mean, we had a gift.
You think about that, and the Colts should have ran away and had a good half, but no. Chester Rogers gets a touchdown. Westbrook gets a touchdown. There was these other guys. It was the other guys that you don't normally think about for the Tennessee Titans. Those were the guys that were carving the Colts up, and a lot of it was miscommunication on defense, which it seems like has happened all year long. Receivers not getting pressed or not even getting hit at the line of scrimmage. I mean, hell, that one touchdown that Ryan Tannehill threw to Westbrook, when he threw it, there wasn't a Colts defender on the screen, on the TV screen. That's how wide open that guy was. He didn't get touched. That's unacceptable. I don't care if you're playing off cover 2 or whatever. You got to put a guy on that man. It's just the Colts way too many times. Yes, they forced turnovers. Darius Leonard with the interception. Kenny Moore with the interception. Rock Ya-Sin with the forced fumble. Those are all great. But you can't do that and then the very next drive let them go down like they're just playing 7-on-7 two-hand touch and score a touchdown. That's not going to cut it. And honestly, I will give credit to Rock Ya-Sin. I mean, Rock Ya-Sin again played a very good game. Rock Ya-Sin has been one of the better defenders on this team, and I've been very pleased with his play. Julian Blackmon talked this week about making sure we need to tackle Derrick Henry. How many times did you see Julian Blackmon fly from the secondary, go up there and make a tackle? It's Julian Blackmon, 6 foot, 187 pounds. Derrick Henry, 6'3", 243. And Blackmon was putting a hat on a helmet and going after him, getting good tackles on him. So Julian Blackmon did his job.
Well. I thought Kenny Moore played well today.
Kenny Moore played pretty well
compared to the first.
Compared to how he has been playing, yes.
Yeah.
There were still some miscues though. A non-existent rush. Where was it? I mean, Al-Qadim Muhammad has been the Colts' best pass rusher. Who would have thought? Yeah. Kwity Paye went out with a hamstring injury. Ben Banogu and Kemoko Turay. I mean, Kemoko Turay, saw him flash when him and Buckner converged on Tannehill that one play. But other than that, Ben Banogu was nowhere to be found. Tyquan Lewis, a no-show. I thought DeForest Buckner and Grover Stewart played pretty well. Grover Stewart was my X factor, and honestly, I thought he had his best game of the year. But when you're giving up throws and in easy catches over the middle, the huge pass interference call on Xavier Rhodes, those mistakes just keep adding up. And at some point, you force 3 turnovers, and when your offense is struggling,
talk about the punt. The roughing the kicker
no,
too?
We didn't. That was one of the stupidest plays that your captain, Zaire Franklin, did. I mean, unless you know for certain you're going to block that punt, there is no excuse for diving at the punter's knee like that, because it's going to be 15 yards every time. And that was a huge momentum shifting play.
Yep.
While the Colts were able to get that turnover, the field position completely flipped, and you had still lost the momentum at that point.
That was when any ounce of hope in my body left. That was about the time when I was like, yeah, that's probably a wrap.
But again, I mean, this Colts defense has been making way too many mistakes, and it's time for Matt Eberflus to take some of the blame too. I mean, we always say there's not execution and things like that. We put it on the players. This is on Matt Eberflus as well. I'm really getting the home on this point today that the coaches really need to take some responsibility, because we're seeing this over and over and over again. That's making me think it's more on the scheme and more on how this Colts team is coached up than anything else. You can't just, and especially when the guys are running open, wide open, game after game after game. That's on Matt Eberflus. This needs to change up, and it needs to change up quick. Otherwise, we're looking at a Colts team that, if Wentz plays all year too, they might be forfeiting a top 10 pick to the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, maybe top 5. Shit. 0-3 hurts, man. I don't even want to do this right now, to be completely honest with you. Like, this isn't fun to do when we're just talking about a loss after a loss after a loss. I think this is nobody wants to listen to us talk right now about this either. We're bummed out. We're probably not even fun to listen to right now. I mean, I'm bummed.
As the educated fan, though, we're and a Colts podcast, we're keeping it real as fans about the Colts.
We got to let you know. Also, here, let me educate you on this, if you didn't catch this during the broadcast. Okereke? We've been saying Okereke wrong for this long, probably because of Pat McAfee. Okereke? I can't do it.
Okereke.
It's going to be so hard.
And the thing is, that's how Bobby
Okereke.
That's how Bobby Okereke wants it said, and that's how he said is the correct pronunciation.
This is like Antoine Bethea flashbacks all over again. He was Bethea forever to me, and then all of a sudden somebody's like, "Oh, it's actually Bethea." Like 4 years in, I'm like, "No, it's Bethea," and I'm sticking with it. So this is like flashbacks. Why is he not telling us this? When he's a rookie, because he's a rookie and he feels
probably because he's a rookie.
Speaking of rookies and people involved with him, I think Anthony Walker was out injured today. I think I saw him sitting on the sideline. Anyway, Andrew, who's to blame? Who do we blame? I need to blame somebody.
I mean, if you've been listening to me this whole episode, I'm putting this one on the coaches. I mean, obviously it's everybody, but I think right now the coaches, we need to take a hard look at them. I'm not saying fire them by any means, because I'm not that kind of person that just overreacts to a loss, says fire everybody. No, not at all. But it does need to be corrected. We'll start on the offensive side. Frank Reich, the play calling needs to be better. The red zone needs to be better. Why aren't you running the ball when you have a very hobbled quarterback and your running backs are taken off? There's no excuse for that. Matt Eberflus, your defense is not getting any pass rush whatsoever. Why is that? When you have an all-pro up there, you have guys that have flashed. Why aren't we getting consistent pressure? Why are receivers running wide open? Why is there so much miscommunication this year for this defense when it's your 4th year in the system with veteran guys too? There and Darius Leonard was one of them. Darius Leonard, while he made a play today, there were times where he was completely out of position.
He got rocked today.
He did. I mean,
he was going for the ball though. It wasn't like he was for the ball. Which, by the way, tackle the guy. Yeah, I want you trying to create turnovers. But when you're squared up, square in the dude's face, please just tackle him.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we going like this at the ball when we're squared up and can make a good form tackle? Don't get
it. But it's time for these coaches to start taking some responsibility, and we need to get this fixed, because these are the same issues now. 3 straight weeks. After next week, we'll be a quarter of the way through the NFL, or almost a quarter of the way through the NFL season now, because of that stupid 17th game.
Yeah,
but you get what I'm saying.
Awesome 17th game.
If these things continue like this, why aren't they getting fixed? And if they're not getting fixed, if things aren't changing, that's on your coaching staff. That's a big point. Frank Reich, Matt Eberflus need to step it up big time. Otherwise, this Colts team isn't going to have any future this season. I'm not hitting the panic button, but it's time to get serious, because if the Colts drop to 0-4, then it's time to panic, and then it's time that Colts fans and this Colts team really need to take a hard look at themselves as to what their ceiling is going to be and what they can achieve this season.
Well, here's the thing with a fully healthy Carson Wentz for most of the game last week, we really, really came close to beating a team that just beat the Super Bowl champs handily. So that does make me feel good. But the problem is our record is still 0-3, and we've got a lot of work to do to turn it around. And we've already got a loss to the Titans, and that sucks. We need to beat the Titans to get in the playoffs. We just have to do it. So when we play them again in Lucas Oil, we're not going to be able to let it go. But my who's to blame? Let me just give you my mom's answer. She said, well, the whole team's playing bad. And everybody, they're all bad. Everybody's playing bad. Everybody's to blame. She goes, is our defensive coordinator still the same guy from last year? And I go, yeah. She goes, what happened to him? What's going on here? You know what I mean? So my mom, diehard Colts fan, still not, like me and you. So, she's making those observations. Paige, my fiance said today, why'd they stop running the football? So, I mean, if average Joe fans, you know what I mean, are seeing these things, I don't understand why our coaches can't figure it out. I've seen some people blaming Chris Ballard. This is his 5th year and we're 0-3, unacceptable. I
certainly think Chris Ballard has some of the blame here, because you don't have a good backup quarterback to go out there when Carson Wentz is hurt.
You still don't have great offensive line depth.
You didn't get a reliable backup left tackle or backup swing tackle for when Eric Fisher is down and Braden Smith is down. You've spent numerous draft capital into these second round pass rushers like Tyquan Lewis, Kaboko Toure, Ben Banogu. And it doesn't look like any of them are going to be starters or maybe even on this team come next year.
Yep.
It's definitely on Chris Ballard. Like I said, coaches, the team, front office, they all need to take responsibility for what is happening right now. And I guess we've been so negative. I guess the good one silver lining out of this is the Colts do get a break. We can say that. They certainly can't say that. They need to put all of their focus on Miami next week. But Miami is missing their starting quarterback. They are going They are going up against Jacoby Brissett, who they know very well, and they know his tendencies. This is your opportunity. This is your opportunity to get back on the horse, get a win, and maybe start turning this thing around. Because, I mean, depending on Quentin Nelson's injury, that's going to be big. Hopefully, Braden Smith can come back soon. Carson Wentz, hopefully another week of rehabbing and throwing the kitchen sink at his ankles. Maybe we see a better Carson Wentz.
Maybe he throws some ice at him instead.
T.Y. Hilton. T.Y. Hilton should be back here fairly soon. I think that'll help change this offense. I mean, Michael Pittman got a ton of plenty of targets today. He had 12 targets, 6 catches, 68 yards. That was a good sign. So as this Colts team
would have had a touchdown and more yards if Carson's not overthrowing them all day.
Exactly. So like I said, there is a silver lining out of all this. The Dolphins are struggling with injuries just like the Colts are. It's time to go down to Miami and take care of some business.
Yeah, and I don't know the stat, but I'd be willing to bet Brian Flores, since he's been with that team, has not gone 0-3. They're lost 3 games in a row very many times, if at all. So we're not going to have an easy game. Let's go to injuries. Guard Quentin Nelson, ankle, left the game in the second. Hopefully better news on that. Kwity Paye, hamstring, left game in the first. I didn't even realize that till they mentioned something about it later. Hopefully with a hamstring injury, it's not anything too bad. Cornerback Rocky Sin, who was actually having a pretty decent game, ankle, left the game in the fourth. Kari Willis, safety, cramps, left the game in the third. That should be fine. I mean, it's going to be hot in Miami, pal. Hope you come hydrated. Linebacker Jordan Glasgow, concussion, placed on IR. And the Colts signed defensive tackle Antoine Woods to the active roster. Anything on the injuries, Andrew? I mean, everything, pretty much all that. And that's just today, and
that's just
Monday,
today.
So we don't have any news.
Doesn't include the Braden Smith. Obviously, we'll see how Carson Wentz responds after a full game getting hit. We'll see how that responds next week. The biggest thing, obviously, is Quentin Nelson. And the word out of the Colts right now is that it looks like it's a high ankle sprain. X-rays were negative on his ankle, which is always a good sign. But again, it's how severe is that high ankle sprain? Is he going to be able to play through it? How quickly is it going to heal? And will he be able to be out there against Miami next week?
Yep. Not an easy game next week, next 2 weeks, even though the Ravens don't look too good either. So there's a bright side. The Dolphins and the Ravens don't look great. So let's talk
the
about
Ravens beat the Chiefs. So, I mean, they
well,
can
so
still get it
did
done.
the Chargers today. So the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, have a losing record for the first time in a long time.
Justin Herbert's the truth. So,
yeah, I'm pretty sure this is Patrick Mahomes' first time having a losing record.
I think you're right on that one.
So, Stat Brandon, they call me. All right, week 3 scores. Panthers undefeated, 24-9 over the Texans. Sam Darnold looks good. Remember when we talked about maybe getting Sam Darnold? That'd have been cool.
Remember when we talked about getting Matthew Stafford, Sam Darnold? We got Carson. And honestly, I mean, I'm not going to say this because Carson Wentz really hasn't been the issue. Carson Wentz has been, he's one tough SOB to go out there and play on 2 sprained ankles and still almost put up 200 yards. I mean, it wasn't a great game by any means for Wentz, but he's been has not been the problem in Indianapolis. You and I agree on that. All of the guys, the rest of the guys at Sports Illustrated agree on that. Carson Wentz hasn't been the problem, but Sam Darnold has looked good.
Illustrated.
Right.
Well, that's fun to say. Listen, Andrew, we're talking other games here. Let's not go back down the rabbit hole. We're pissed off. We're upset.
The Adam Gase effect with
hilarious those stats.
Yeah.
Oh man, I sent you those. I sent Andrew this awesome NFL meme, and he just says Adam Gase sucks.
Adam Gase is terrible.
And I could hear him saying it in my head. It was awesome. Bills 43 over the Washington football team, 43-21. Sorry. Heineke, not good. He's not going to be the guy.
That Bills offense, ever since they got beat by Pittsburgh, it pissed them off real nice, and they've been red hot.
35-0 last week. Washington's defense, not good. Everybody thought that was going to be the defense this year.
Right. Not as good as they thought they were going to be, just like Indianapolis.
Browns 26, Bears 6. The Bears kind of like they did against the Rams in week 1, hung around early. But then it just became too much throughout the game. Justin Fields' first start, not great. I saw a fun stat. This isn't really how passing stats work, but it was like he had 69 passing yards, but he was sacked for a total of negative 68 yards. So he had 1 passing yard is the way they chalk that up. If you do the math, add and subtract, hilarious.
Yeah, the thing is, I mean, I feel bad for Justin Fields because I watch. I mean, you don't like the guy, but I mean, it's
not his fault. I just don't like Ohio State.
I watched. You're just like my fiance, Danny. She's a Bears fan, but she says now the Bears suck because they drafted Justin Fields. I said, why?
Hilarious.
He's a good quarterback. She's like, and she's a diehard Notre Dame fan from South Bend.
Yeah, she's more of a Notre Dame fan than she is a Bears fan.
Oh, sure. She goes because he went to Ohio State. Anyways, I saw some of the highlights from that game. I feel bad for Justin Fields. The dude had no chance. That offensive line failed him today. Matt Nagy again. I think he's got to go. He didn't put any of the blame on himself. He put it on the players. Act like he didn't do anything wrong.
Ooh.
Same thing he did with Mitch Trubisky. Matt Nagy needs to go.
Hey, what did you think about Pete Carroll? He kind of called out Russ last week. Like, I kind of wish Russ would have gone down and scored some points on that drive.
Things aren't great in Seattle. They can say everything they want. I think Russ won't be there much longer.
No way. And I don't even think what Pete Carroll said was that bad, and like people blew it out of proportion. But like he's like, hey man, you were bitching all offseason. You want to be the guy. You had a chance there to be the guy. I gave it to you. I put it in your hands. And you just lost. And they just lost to the Vikings.
Can you imagine Frank Reich ever saying that about Carson Wentz?
Never. He'll never say it. Never ever. Nope. All right. Let's move along. Ravens. Justin Tucker sets a record 66-yard field goal to win with 2 seconds left. 19-17 over the Lions. They were 4th and 19. I don't know if I turned my head to another game to finish this game. I think the Chiefs game I was wrapping up to. And I don't know if there's a penalty that got them to convert that, but I don't know how they got through 4th and 19. And then all of a sudden I'm like, Justin Tucker, here's your chance. And he does it. It was unbelievable.
The most Lions way to lose a game.
That's a record-breaking
field goal that bounces off the crossbar and goes in. And to make things worse, I mean, we've jokingly talked about the Calvin Johnson curse for the Lions, how they'll never do anything now, especially since they won't decide to pay Calvin Johnson.
Yeah.
Today, Calvin Johnson at the Lions game received his Hall of Fame ring. The owner for the Lions comes out, gets booed the entire time. Calvin Johnson goes up there and speaks for less than 30 seconds and goes off the stage. And then the Lions end up losing like that.
We never did talk about
curse of Calvin Johnson is real.
We never really did talk about Peyton and Edge giving their speech, but you couldn't hear them anyway. So Lucas Oil's just screaming through the speeches.
I mean, when Peyton Manning and Edger and James come back, it's gonna be basically 10 minutes of standing ovations because those guys
was awesome
till the end.
Did I cry? Yes, sir.
Oh yeah.
Where are we here? Chargers beat the Chiefs 30-24. Chiefs they had a chance to come back and win on a game-win drive. I was like, here they go. This is how they do it. And they didn't. Chiefs 1-2. Saints 28-13 over the Patriots. I believe I picked the Saints. I don't know. I'd have to go back to the picks. You guys are here on Wednesday. What do you think about that one?
Jameis looked good again. Famous Jameis. Yep. And that
Taysom Hill.
That Saints defense, especially, that's what got it. Mac Jones looked like he couldn't do anything. That Saints defense is tough, and I think a lot of exactly. I think they're going to that Saints defense is going to carry them through a lot of games.
Falcons 17, Giants 14. They get their first win. Andrew picked against them. That's how it goes.
How it goes every week.
Did I miss any of the other undefeated teams? Ravens are not. Are Chargers undefeated? Or they lost one?
I think they lost one. I think they lose last week to the Cowboys.
Cowboys, yeah. Yep. Okay. Hey, I'm so mad about this one. I almost picked this game. I almost did it. Do you remember me going, I don't know. I can't do it in Pittsburgh. Bengals 24, Steelers 10. Unbelievable. Joe Burrow is the truth.
They looked good, and the Steelers offense especially looked pretty bad. I was talking with some buddies about this game earlier this morning and looking at the spreads for my bets, and the spread was only 2.5. And shout out to my buddy Josh. He was like, are the Bengals going to win or is the Steelers going to win? And I said, well, the Steelers should, but Vegas must know something for that close of a spread. Sure enough, the Bengals went out on a tirade, so good for them. Hey,
and you know what the rule is? Home team gets 2 points typically.
2 or 3,
Vegas.
yeah.
Yep. So they liked the Bengals. Cardinals undefeated 31-19 over the Jags. They tried, I believe, a 66-yarder, and 68 fell a couple yards short and got returned for a touchdown, but they still pulled it off. Kyler Murray now in the lead in the MVP talk, right?
I would say so.
Almost by a lot.
Did you see that 109-yard kick return for a touchdown? And not only that, did you hear Gus Johnson on the call for that 109-yard kickoff return for like field goal for a touchdown? That man was screaming like only just Gus Johnson can, and it was one of the most phenomenal calls I've ever heard. If you haven't listened to it or haven't watched it, go back and watch it. Go back and watch that.
I will look at it. God, I love football. Kyler Murray, my pick for MVP, by the way.
My pick, Matty Stafford, doesn't look too bad either.
That's true. Matt Stafford's probably in second. Broncos 26, Jets 0. Broncos remain undefeated, I believe. Jets are bad. Broncos look good. Teddy Two Gloves coming at you.
Teddy Two Gloves is not turning the ball over, just marching up and down the field. And that defense for the Broncos, I mean, we talked about it before the season. That defense looks legit. They really do. A lot of young players, a lot of fast players, and Von Miller's always
Von Miller back. Yep. Raiders overtime 31 over the Dolphins. The Raiders are undefeated. Dolphins 1-2. Tyler, thank you very much. That was a good game for what I saw. Derek Carr maybe in the MVP conversation. Who knows? You got something?
No, Derek
Carr already talked about them.
Yeah, Derek Carr looked good. So
Rams 34, Bucks 24. I picked that. Andrew did not. Vikings 30-17 over the Seahawks. Why? Rams are undefeated as well. Buccaneers no longer undefeated. Anything on the games, Andrew? I love football. Can I just tell you, I love football. I'm feeling happy again now that we're talking about other games. I'm looking forward to the game that's going right now. I want to watch some of that.
Again, Matt Stafford looked good. I mean,
Rams are good.
Again, that does make me feel a little bit better that the Rams went out and put that on the Buccaneers, and the Colts were closer than that. Like I said, I mean, Well, I'll talk about it as we're wrapping up, but we talked down about the Colts, but I think that's just because we expect a lot more out of this team than what
That's true. That's true. Yeah. Sean McVay, 40-0 when leading at halftime.
I'd say he's a pretty good coach.
Yeah, I think we can say that for sure. Let's see here. News around the league. NFL changes Super Wild Card weekend to include a Monday night game. Love that. Weekend will now consist of 2 games Saturday, 3 games Sunday, and 1 game Monday. And if I can't watch it on ESPN2 with Peyton and Eli, just put it back on Saturday. I don't care.
It's going to be interesting because obviously you know exactly why the league did this. Ratings, more money. I want to see over the long run, because it's not going to be able to be determined this year probably. I want to see if there ends up being a disadvantage because the team's playing on a short week on Monday night and then probably having to travel.
That's true.
To the number 1 or number 2 seed on that Saturday or Sunday, whatever it is, on the short week. I think that's going to be a bigger disadvantage.
That's kind of bullshit now that I think about it. I don't like that anymore. I'm against it. Count me out. I'm against it.
Well, I even saw Tony Dungy talking about it on Twitter, saying that that's going to be a bigger disadvantage than people think, and I think he's 100% correct.
And the whole only one team gets a bye thing, we saw how that worked out last year. So
exactly.
And then the Chiefs were still tired out by the Super Bowl. Colts player of the game, Andrew. I will let you go first because I picked a different one. I was going to go first if we picked the same one, but I didn't even realize. Go ahead.
Yeah, so my Colts player of the game, Nyheim Hines. He gets it for the second time this year for me. He had 6 carries for 25 yards, and a touchdown, 4.2 yards per carry. And then he was also big in the passing game. He had 5 catches for 54 yards.
Yeah.
Nyheim Hines, plain simple, should have got the ball more. Jonathan Taylor as well. And I think the Colts would have had better success if they would have kept this running game going today. But Nyheim Hines gets my Colts player of the week.
I decided on Jonathan Taylor partway through the game, so I just stuck with him. I thought about Derrick Henry.
Well, Derrick Henry's not a Colts player of the game. Are you just doing a general player of the game?
Nope. Ryan Tannehill really did some good stuff for the Colts. You know what? Actually, if we won, I was going to make a joke that Ryan Tannehill was the Colts player of the game. No, I'm just pissing and moaning about how bad we played. Jonathan Taylor, I think if we keep feeding him, I think he ends up with a monster day, and we just didn't. So I'll give him the nod because it was his best game yet this year. How sad is that? That was his best game of the year. Yeah, not happy. Hey, let us know if you're listening to this. Send us a message, comment on YouTube. Let us know in our reviews on Apple Podcasts if you want to. I don't mind. Let us know if you like Sunday night or Monday night more for these recaps because this is the first time this year that we've done a Sunday night, and I just want to know. I'm sure I'll see it in the numbers here, but I want to know. Comment. Talk to us, interact with us. We like interaction. More comments this Wednesday when we're going.
By the way, real quick, we've seen our numbers in the past couple weeks, especially since joining Sports Illustrated. Thank you.
Big shout out to the fans. Thanks for joining.
All of our listeners, our numbers have been great. They're continuing to climb. We appreciate all the support. We have been getting more engagement on Twitter, on Facebook. It's been a blast, and I'm glad that we're able to share this with more Colts fans and hopefully
be more fun if we were winning.
Right, exactly. But hey, the diehard fans stick with the team through the bad and the good. So it's been a blast, and I want to thank all the people that are listening to us and taking time out of their schedules and listening to more Colts talk. You can never have enough Colts talk, in my opinion.
All right, go follow us again. A Colts podcast, at a Colts podcast, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all the things. We really appreciate you guys listening. I don't know. Hopefully this week's better.
Yeah,
Can't be worse.
Like I said, we have high expectations for this team. It's time to get going.
God bless.
Only way to go up from here.
God bless you all. God bless football. Go Colts.
Go Colts.